just weaving words, a rhythm cool and neat. He listens close, he lets your thoughts unroll, then finds the thread and takes precise control. Oh, bug in the machine, he set the truth alight, demolishing the shadows, bringing clarity to sight. A master of the mind, a subtle, graceful fight, leaving no doubt, just pure, brilliant light. The points unwind, the arguments align. He sees the flaws, the gaps, the subtle sign. He doesn't crush, he simply disentangles, unraveling the knots, unbending all the angles. No raised voices, no attack, no heed, just weaving words, a rhythm cool and neat. He listens close, he lets your thoughts unroll, then finds the thread and takes precise control. Oh, bug in the machine, he sets the truth alight, demolishing the shadows, bringing clarity to sight. A master of the mind, a subtle, graceful fight, leaving no doubt, just pure, brilliant light. Walk away bewildered, some just stare, but in their minds a new idea's there. He sows the seeds of thought with every phrase he crafts, leaving a space where understanding Oh, bug in the machine, he sets the truth alight, demolishing the shadows, bringing clarity to sight. A master of the mind, a subtle, graceful fight, leaving no doubt, just pure, brilliant light. Yeah, bug, he leaves no doubt, just pure, brilliant light.
All right, what's up, YouTube? User, my main argument, it's my own variant of the argument for motion. If you see my YouTube channel, if you go just on my YouTube, it's on my profile, it's my Discord server. I have the whole PDF for it. Yeah, mine's a variant of the first mover argument. Welcome to the stream, y'all. If you disagree with the background or have any questions, request up as guest. And yeah, hopefully we get this started up pretty fast. Like an art within the Bible, yeah, I have an argument for the Trinity biblically. User. I mean, there's a multitude of verses you can use. Oh, like the Trinity being true by necessity. I mean, if you wanted to make that type of argumentation, I would personally use TAG, transcendental argument for God, just because it specifically argues that the Orthodox worldview, Orthodox Christian worldview is necessary. And that would include that God would have to be triune by necessity. I think so. If you're wanting to make an argument for the Trinity external to the Bible, that it has to exist by necessity, I'd use that. What's up to? All right, surely someone disagrees with the background that wants to come up. What's up, YouTube? Thank y'all for tuning in. I'm gonna see if we can get someone up here. If we can't get someone on the TikTok live, we'll just go hop on other lives. Welcome, La Maria. If y'all disagree with the background or have any questions, request up. There's no way we don't have anyone that doesn't disagree with the background. Surely. But yeah, YouTube. Finally back from vacation. I'm happy to be back. Good morning, La Maria. What's up, Plague? If y'all disagree with the background or have any questions, request up as guest. Hopefully we can get someone up here. I'm not pretending to believe in God. Miko, do you want to come up? We can talk about it. Why do you think I'm pretending to believe in God? What's up, Nighthawk? Yeah, YouTube. I'll probably give it like 3 more minutes. If I can't get someone up on the TikTok, I'll just hop on some other TikTok lives. Do the usual. My TikToks is slow because I was on vacation. I haven't been on. I don't. It's so annoying the way it does it. Like if you go off and miss a couple days, you go from like averaging 20 to barely anyone. It's super annoying. System's awful. Dan the Skeptic, Counterpoint. Surely one of these guys like disagrees and wants to come up. There's no way. I'd be very upset. Oh, okay. So YouTube. For those on YouTube, I am planning to do this. I want to go over like a document on EED. And explaining what it is and how to debate it. I'm going to work on getting a good document for that, but yeah. What's up, Philip?
Hey, you said the Trinity is true, right?
Yeah.
What counting method do you use?
What counting method? Well, I would the three part comes from the persons of hypostases. It being one being comes from the fact that there's only one being or one usia.
Right, I'm saying, how do you like count to conclude that there's one God?
I count that there's only one because there's only one being of God.
How do you define being
here? How do I define being? I would define like being is a general so when it comes to the traditional definition, like within Aristotelian metaphysics, would be what that which is or that which exists. In reference to the one being of God, it's understood. Do you know what the ousia is?
Yeah, the essence.
Yeah, that it's kind of understood in tangent of that there's only one ousia and being, which in return like an aspect of an essence is being, and there's only one instance of this. There's not like 3 separate instances, so because of that there's only one being.
Right, so like how do you, like once again, how do you come to conclude that there's one God when you have like 3 things or persons having divinity predicated to them? Like what would your counting method be to just count one God?
Yeah, so we understand that it's only one being of God because there's not so within the Trinity, like the reason there's only one being is because there's only one ousia. There's only one like being of God in the sense of his divine nature. There's not like 3. So when it comes to humans, right? There's the human nature, and each human, like you and I, each have our own instantiation or of that human nature, right? That's why we're like different beings. We're separate from each other. Within the Trinity, that's not the case. There's not separate like instantiations of the divine nature. There's only one divine nature that's fully and equally subsists within the 3 hypostases. Because of that, that's why it's only one. There's only one being there.
Cool. So what's your You're like Eastern Orthodox, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't want to get to that.
We don't have to.
What's your like arguments against Muslims?
Muslims? Well, just out of
Yeah.
curiosity, like, what do you believe in? What do you hold to?
I'm an Athari Muslim.
Okay. Yeah, so my argument against Islam is specifically in Surah 2146, and also Al-Tabari's Tafsir writes about this. In his Tafsir, he writes about it. It talks about how during the time of Muhammad, the people of the scriptures, being the Torah and the Injil, recognized Muhammad as they recognized their own sons, but they parties of them or groups of them concealed what was written of Muhammad in their books. This occurs during the time of Muhammad. Within the framework of the chapter, it would be within Surah 289. We see that like the Jews are praying and asking God for this prophet, and then they recognize it's Muhammad and reject him. So it's presumably like during this time or right after this. But my argument essentially is if what was written of Muhammad was, as the Quran claims, concealed like during the time of Muhammad, that would mean that the Torahs before the time of Muhammad would still have him written in it, i.e., like that being him mentioned or prophesied, etc. Whatever the Jews had in which they could recognize Muhammad based off what they had within the scriptures, right? So where in the Torahs before that time, before the time of Muhammad, is he still mentioned? Is he still written?
I think Daniel 2 and Daniel 7 are really strong.
You would affirm yeah. So if you're making the argument with Daniel 2 and Daniel 7, obviously Muhammad's completely incompatible with those prophecies, specifically because, for example, if we read about Daniel in Daniel 7:13 through 14, it says, I saw in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven there came one like a son of man, and he came to the Ancient of Days, and it was presented before him, and to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion's everlasting, which shall not pass away, and this kingdom one that shall not be destroyed, right? So the kingdom that's being written about here, which would be this kingdom that God established, that y'all would claim would be the Muslims, is all kingdom, dominion, glory, etc., are given to the Son of Man, which in Daniel 2 you would affirm would be Muhammad, right? And all nations, people, etc., serve him, right?
Yeah.
I would argue that this does not fit the Islamic paradigm for what Muhammad is.
How not?
What?
How not?
Yeah. So, within the Islamic paradigm, right? Like, would you affirm as a Muslim that all people, nations, and languages serve Muhammad? Like, that's an aspect of what you're supposed to do?
Yeah, it's a sunnah.
Okay. And you affirm that Islam, like the entire kingdom that Christ established being Islam, is all Muhammad's as well?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay. So the like when we read in Daniel 7, like this kingdom and dominion, this isn't Allah's kingdom. Like, Allah's not the head of this kingdom.
How isn't he?
You got to speak a little
How
louder. I
isn't
couldn't hear you.
Yeah, how isn't he the ruler of the kingdom?
Yeah. How is he the ruler? Well, because it specifically says that in verse 14 that, and to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages deserve him. And his dominion's an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom one that shall not be destroyed. So supposedly the kingdom that's the everlasting kingdom in Daniel 2, right? that God establishes is given to this Son of Man, and he and all these people and all the glory and people and nations should serve him or will serve him.
Yeah, there's like no contradiction of like affirming that of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Okay, so you wouldn't affirm that within the Quran that there's not any contradiction when it comes to terms with like all glory being to Muhammad, and like Islam itself, this everlasting dominion, that there's not a problem with Muhammad being the head of this dominion.
Yeah, because not only is the seal of the prophets, the
okay.
word for serve is palak, which isn't like divine worship like what you would see with latria.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So so firstly, I would argue that within the Quran, right? If we go to, like, for example, Surah 3:144, I'm pulling it up for the stream here. Okay, we understand that as like the Quran exclaims, Muhammad is no more than a messenger. Other messengers have gone before him. If he were to die or to be killed, would you regress in disbelief? Those who do not do so will not harm Allah whatsoever, and Allah will reward those who are grateful, right? Within the Quran, Muhammad is nothing more than just a messenger, right? As all the other prophets. So if you, I would argue that's incompatible with, that doesn't make sense if this eternal kingdom that's supposed to be Allah's, that he established, is actually given to Muhammad, and all glory is given to him and all this other stuff. But B, if you were to affirm that this isn't, that this was given to Muhammad, then Muhammad being a messenger, if he's no more than any other messenger, then the other messengers would have the same treatment or the equivalent treatment, because the Quran explicitly says that Muhammad is no more than a messenger. Other messengers have gone before him. So he's no greater than the previous messengers or prophets. He's no greater in any of them, right? So it's either that this wouldn't be compatible with a messenger, or this is an aspect like of being a messenger, that all glory, that God's eternal kingdom is given to you. And that all the glory is given to you, and all people, nations, and languages should serve you. And specifically, you could also make the argument that serve here, within the Greek, means to serve or worship, and is within like the Old Testament, how it's used. It's in reference to God specifically, and it's like a divine title, right? Like you see Ezra 7:24, Daniel 3:12, Daniel 3:17, Daniel 3:18, like all throughout the Old Testament, this word here is used in reference to like serving God or not serving God, or those types of things, which would be a divine attribute. So, and with that being said, in the way like this Hebrew word is used here in reference to serving God, that's also how you should serve Muhammad, serve or worship him. Which obviously, like if we read, for example, like you shouldn't worship any other god. Like if I need to, I can bring up verses like that. Obviously, I'd hope that as a Muslim you'd affirm that like this Allah, you should worship Allah alone, and serve Allah alone.
Right, okay, I'll just address what you said. So the first part about Muhammad being just a messenger, that's just used to like show the humility of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's in Surah Al-Azab chapter 31. He's also called the moral exemplar for mankind. I think ayat 22, which isn't really said of like every single prophet, and it would make more sense because all the other prophets were just sent like to.
God bless, brother.
like regions, but Muhammad, he was the messenger of all of mankind, right? And also what you said about Halak in Ezra 7:27, it's not it doesn't always pick out like divine worship the same way Latria would.
Yeah.
It also like picks out like normal worship, like to serve like what we like serve Muhammad because we follow the Sunnah. So it's like Ezra 7:27 has that if you want to like take a look at a lexicon.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
think the
definitely
kind
compatible
of
with
like
Islam.
the final nail in the coffin is in Surah 25:2. It says, Allah is the one to whom belongs the kingdom of the heavens and the earth, who has never had any offspring, nor does he have a partner in governing the kingdom. He has created everything, ordained it precisely. So specifically within the Quran, it affirms that Allah's kingdom, there is no partner in governing it or like partner within his dominion, right? Which as is I would argue is completely incompatible with the Daniel 2:7 prophecy, because specifically the Son of Man is given this everlasting dominion. So if this everlasting dominion is given to him, and all people, nations, etc., serve him, and the Quran specifically saying that no, in Surah 25:2, that no one is a partner in Allah's kingdom, like it's exclusively his, then that completely shuts down any possibility that this kingdom is about Muhammad, or the Son of Man could be Muhammad.
Right, I'll tell you why it is. So it's sort of like the same way how Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam
Can you speak
mediates.
up? Sorry, it's just really hard to hear you.
Yeah, so it's similar to what you believe about Jesus and Moses. So Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mediates the new kingdom the same way that, like in Deuteronomy 17 and 18, that Moses is called, or Jesus is called the prophet like Moses, like in Acts 3:22. So you wouldn't say that they're like similar because one is God, right? But you would say that there's how to put this, there's like some kind of like relationship between them that's shared, like similarities. So we wouldn't say Muhammad is like the head of the kingdom in the sense that he's God, but he like helps mediate it. So that's all it means.
That's what Daniel 7 means?
Oh yeah, no, that's how it like relates to our
Okay, so it's not actually him being given this dominion.
He's given the dominion, but that's not like in the sense that how God has full dominion. He's just given authority over the people of Islam because he's the final prophet of all of mankind.
But it specifically says that the dominion's given to him. This everlasting dominion that God established, it's given to him.
Yeah,
And,
but it doesn't say
the,
how
the
much.
Hebrew word literally means to give.
Yeah, it's given to him, but not like all of it.
But okay, but can you justify that that's what the verse is saying here? Because like with what the
verse
Hebrew is
doesn't say all
saying,
of
I
it.
feel like this doesn't fit. So like, could you justify that when within the Hebrew it doesn't actually mean that the dominion is given to him, but it's like
Yeah, I
he's just
agree.
kind of like a leader or whatever, like not fully given. This dominion isn't actually his.
Yeah, it's because it never specifies how much dominion is going to be given.
Well, when I say I'm giving you, like if I give you an apple, that doesn't mean like, oh, I'm giving you like a quarter of an apple. I'm giving you an apple. If
Yeah,
I'm
but you give me
giving,
like
if
an actual like
I'm giving
whole
you
object.
a kingdom, I'm not. If you were supposed to, like logically, if it's saying, if you're trying to say that you're only given part of this kingdom, that's what would be said. You wouldn't be using Hebrew in the sense that it points towards you being actually given the like entirety of the kingdom or the kingdom. It would be specifically say that like we would expect to see like it's only given part of the kingdom or whatever.
Yeah, but look, it doesn't say that he's given all of the. He's not given all of the kingdom. nor is he given a part of it.
All right. So, like, okay. So really your argument is just like it doesn't specify if it's the entire kingdom or just part of the kingdom.
Yeah, and it would more likely just be a part, because we know like God can't give God dominion, and if it's going to be like according to his humanity, like even according to like what Damascene says on like an interstasis, it's just going to be a part of it. You know what I mean? It's not going to be the full thing.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So I would say like within the Hebrew, typically when we see like it's not meant in the full sense, we would see like qualifiers, or like the term would be qualified or with a limitation or that type of thing. We would see that in the Greek, in the Hebrew, right? Within the context of this specific scenario, we don't see that. We don't see the word here, for example, for dominion, sultan, being having qualified or limitations put on it or anything like that. It's used in fact the exact same way as like all the other scriptures, especially even in reference to God. For example, we go to it's used in the same way if you pull up on Bible Hub, as we see in reference to Daniel 4:3, Daniel 4:34. Here, let me pull up Daniel 4:34. Like for example, in reference to God's kingdom, in Daniel 4:34 it says, "And the end of the days, I Nebuchadnezzar lifted my eyes to heaven, and my reason returned to me, and I blessed the Most High, and praised and honored him who lives forever. For his dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom endures from generation to generation." Right? It's used the exact same way as it's used here. So it's used the exact same way. On Bible Hub, it's used 14 times. Every single time, like it's used in the sense of like there's not this limitation on here, right? Why should I expect, like, what's the justification that there is a limitation, especially if we see within the way scripture uses this specific word, it's not used in a limited sense. It's in reference to God's everlasting dominion, or like a dominion, not just part of it or anything like that. And also, why should I believe this, especially with there being no limitations or qualifiers or anything like that within the Hebrew language?
It's because of the hypostatic union, right? Because say like God is like past 100%. So since God can't give God dominion over something he already has, that would make it from 100% to not 100%, because the human nature is limited, right? So in like any sense that the dominion is going to be given, since the human nature is limited, it's not going to be an unlimited amount. So it's like God can't give God dominion. So if it's unlimited, even if it's 100%, it's still unlimited, because like God is unlimited. It's not 100%.
I really can't hear you. You gotta speak up, dude.
So can you hear me now?
Yeah, but you're just really quiet.
Yeah, like, so what I'm trying to say is God can't give God dominion, and since the human nature is limited, even if it's 100%, because like God is past 100%. So even if it's 100%, because the human is still limited, like created things are limited, it would better fit Muhammad than God, because if you say like that, like what is that, the adoptionist view where he was given it, and yeah, that's the only way you could get out of this, you know?
Yeah. So no, like we would affirm that the hypostasis of the Father specifically gives the dominion and kingdom to the hypostasis of the Son, or the person of the Son. That like
Yeah,
that,
that's straight heresy.
that's not, how is that heresy?
That's like subordinationism.
Okay, how's that subordinationism?
So would you say like dominion is like a property of the essence?
Okay, so proper to the essence. What do you mean?
Yeah,
Like
like
the
having
kingdom of
authority, I think.
dominion is
Yeah.
part of the essence, or given to the essence, or owned by
Is
the
it
essence?
proper
Like,
to the
what do you mean by
essence? Is
that?
that something God has?
It's something God has, like in that
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's one being of God, so like it's to be like it's God's kingdom. I would affirm that.
God.
Specifically, like
Yeah.
you could make the argument that like I just don't see how this is subordinationism. Firstly,
Because you can see that like being like all powerful and having all the authority is like proper to the essence.
having all power and authority is proper to the essence. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So, like I would say, obviously being all powerful, but how is this subordinationism?
Because if you're gonna say like that everything in the essence is gonna be shared between the persons, and then you say that the person has been given something that's proper to the essence, that means he doesn't have access to it. So he doesn't like fully share the essence.
All right. So you're just essentially arguing that like the hypostasis of the Father can't give, for example, authority to the Son. Like like okay, so I
Yeah.
mean it obviously it depends in what sense. Like in the sense like of personal origin, the Father gave all authority to the Son in the sense that the Father is the arche and the source, and the Son's eternally begotten from the Father. Um, which that's one that's a sense in which that can occur. You could also say, for example,
Yeah, but that's
like
introducing
like given to the
another arbitrary
human
modal
nature.
criteria.
Um, Obviously, the Son already possesses all the divine authority by nature. It's
Right.
so if you're saying it in that sense, that's subordinationism, but that's not the sense that we would affirm. We would affirm either, like for example, in some instances, authority, like in Matthew 28:18, that's an aspect where this all authority is being given to the Son's human nature, and then there's other scenarios in which it's possible. For example, it's in reference to the Son being eternally begotten to the Father, which since the Father is the arche or source, that's where he that's where the Son's like derives his attributes, etc. from.
I got two things to say. The first one is that introduces a no arbitrary modal criteria. That's one. And two, how can God derive from God? That makes no sense.
I didn't hear the first part. What was an arbitrary criteria?
Yeah. Then no arbitrary modal criteria. So like the modal mode is just going to be like arbitrary. There's like, what are the grounds for that?
In reference to what?
The arbitrary modal criteria.
Yeah. In reference to what? Like what's an arbitrary modal criteria? No. So for example, like if what did I say that would be an arbitrary modal criteria?
The relational origins.
How is that an arbitrary modal criteria?
Because there's no grounding for the hypostatic properties being like eternal acts. That's the no arbitration.
Are you just
That's the
trolling?
no.
Like,
No, I'm genuine. I'm just thinking because this is
like I don't know why you keep laughing after you say that. Like, I can't tell if you're just being if you're being serious or you're just trolling.
No, I'm being serious.
Okay. So like, obviously I can provide the biblical justification and grounding as to how we understand that. For example, or I could provide logical grounding such as I could even use the church. For example, biblically the church is supposed to be infallible. So if this infallible church declares that the Father eternally begets the Son and those types of things, that would be a logical grounding. I could use the scriptures as well, but I don't see the relevance when it comes to like when it comes to Daniel 7:13 through 14.
I mean, it does, because not only is your like church the least historically accurate one, like we haven't even got to Daniel 2 yet, which is like the pivot of
Daniel
the
2 and
argument.
Daniel 7 would be connected or in tangent with each other.
Exactly, but the five kingdoms would just absolutely destroy, like put an end to this.
No.
Okay, let's go. So
Ultimately, the debates on whether this it's a prophecy about Islam. I'm showing here that like given the fact that the Quran specifically says that it's Allah's dominion is Allah's alone and it's not given to anyone. Also, Surah 45:27 says that. But and specifically that he has no partner or anything like that. And within Daniel 7:14, Muhammad would supposedly be given dominion and glory and a kingdom, and this is his dominion is the everlasting dominion, which is just completely incompatible with the Quran. Obviously, now you're saying that it doesn't mean like the entire dominion or kingdom, but you haven't provided a justification for that.
yeah, I said God can't give authority to God, which you conceded, so it's going to be according to the limited human nature, and since the Muhammad is a human too, so he's limited, it's going to be more according to what's like proper to being limited as opposed to what's not limited, you know.
What
So-
like within, like, for example, could you justify that when it's saying that and to him was given dominion within Daniel 7:14, that this is not this is actually in reference to like a part of it or whatever you're saying? Why do you leave? Did you not mean to drop? Here, I'll invite you back up. Yeah, so I want specifically a justification for that. For example, like an example of this would be, let's say like I don't know, within the Hebrew there's like things that words that are used in reference, or grammar that's used when in reference to like something just being a part of something. For example, like you could go to Exodus 9:27 when it talks about the people and specifically says a portion of the people. That word being used there tells us that it's not the totality of the people, right? Or like context clues, etc. As a justification. That's what I'm asking for.
I'm saying it doesn't just have to be in the like etymology, because if you reduce like theological statements to the etymology, you don't even get like the Trinity or any of that. So like I said, since God can't give authority to
What's
God,
the justification
I mean,
for this, dude?
you haven't even justified the no arbitrary modal criteria.
That's a completely different topic.
No, it isn't.
The debate isn't about modal criterias right now. Okay. I originally asked you for this justification. You brought up all this crap about how this would be incompatible with the Trinity and the Father giving it to the Son and all this arbitrary modal criteria and all that stuff. We can get into that But I originally asked you this for this justification first. The justification that dominion, it only means like, it doesn't mean like the actual dominion, isn't
Yeah, I
because the Trinity
explained it.
doesn't work here. That's not a justification. Even if the
Yes, it
Trinity
is. I'm
doesn't work
saying-
here, that doesn't then justify that when it means given dominion, that means like not the actually being given the dominion.
Well, yes, it does. If you're going to say the Trinity doesn't work there, I can say that's not about Muhammad. Then you say the Trinity isn't compatible with the Bible. That's fine. I'll take that. I can go to like another verse.
That's not it. Okay, what's the justification that when it says given dominion here, it's not actually being given this Son of Man being given the dominion, like you're claiming.
I can grant he's been given dominion, but it's to a certain like amount, right?
Yeah, you're saying
That's
it's to a
not-
certain extent. Where are you getting this from? What within the text? What's your grounding for this? Where's this come from?
Yeah, in the hypostatic union. That's what I've been saying. I'm literally granting your position on this. I'm saying if the divine nature is unlimited and the human nature is limited, the human nature is going to be the one receiving authority.
No,
And since it's
that's not what I'm
limited, it's
asking,
more
dude.
like Muhammad's.
Completely
You just
ignore
really
the
don't.
Trinity for right now. You're saying that when it says that supposedly Muhammad here is given dominion, this even though it's the Quran says that there is no partner in dominion and his dominion is all his and he's like the leader of this dominion and he doesn't have any partners in ruling it, that it's actually not saying that the dominion was given to him and it means something else. I'm asking for that justification.
Yeah, I can just reject that specific like verse. I'm fine with rejecting.
You
that.
quoted these passages. Okay, so I originally asked you about where Muhammad is within the Bible. You said Daniel 2 and Daniel 7.
Yeah, I went to Daniel 2 first. Can we go to Daniel 2?
One of your quotes was Daniel 7. Was it not?
But I didn't say verse 13 and 14.
What?
How can you assume that just because I said Daniel?
You're
Daniel
quoting from
7.
Daniel 7. Are you not? Did you not
I'm not
reference
quoting
that?
the whole
Did you not say that one of the passages in which that's about Muhammad is Daniel 7?
Yeah, I did, but I don't mean the whole
Okay.
chapter.
What part of Daniel 7 is about Muhammad?
Every part except the one you don't like.
Okay, what can you justify me why every part except the one that causes you gives you a problem is about Muhammad?
Because it actually is about Muhammad, but you don't like my answer, so you're just running.
I'm directly addressing one of the passages you brought up. That's not that's the exact opposite of running. Running would be
Again,
me,
my
like for
answer.
example, you bring up that Daniel 7 is about Muhammad, and then I try to completely ignore this passage and start talking about something different, like Jesus being God or something else.
I
So
mean, like,
once again,
your position is that
are
you
you
have
are
the
you
right
affirming?
interpretation.
Are you just saying like? Are you saying that the entirety of Daniel 7 is about Muhammad, or are you saying that
Okay, can
the
we skip
entirety of
another
Daniel 7
topic?
except verse 13 or 14 is about Muhammad? What are you saying here?
Can we go another? This is going nowhere. Like I'm just
Well,
going
you
in
won't answer the
circles.
questions.
I answered like 7 times.
Okay, so just
It's
answer it
rage
one more time
baiting.
for me. What part of Daniel 7 is about Muhammad?
All the parts except the part you don't like.
Why every part except the part I don't like?
Because you haven't brought an argument for what you don't, what you like. You know.
What? I haven't brought an argument for what I like. How does that have any relevance? And what parts you believe? If I don't like something, how does that mean that therefore that specific part isn't about Prophet Muhammad and Daniel 7?
Because you haven't brought an argument for the other stuff.
Alright. You're just trolling, dude. What's up, AI?
Yeah.
What's good? What you want to talk
You
about,
hear me?
brother? Yeah,
Hello?
I can hear
Shit. Submit the wrong little nigga.
you. Cage out. Cage, you're coming up. What's up, Cage?
Yeah, why do you believe God is real? Or at least the
Yeah,
Christian God.
like because I would affirm that God exists by necessity. I can run you
Yeah,
through my
why?
argument for that. Um, do you? It's 9 premises. Do you want to like write it down? Like as I
No,
go.
that's fine.
Okay.
You can just say
Yeah.
it.
Premise 1 is things in the universe are in motion. Premise 2 is if something is in motion, then it must be put in motion by another since it can't move itself.
Yeah, why?
Yeah. Why can't something move itself? Yeah. So
Yeah.
motion I would define as the move from a state of potential to actual. Potential is I would define as something has the capacity to become something else, but is not yet that thing. And actual I would define as something that already is what it is potentially able to be, or like the realized state of the potential. In order for motion to occur, something actualizes the something's potential, and that potential then becomes actual, right? If something were to move itself, it would have to be both actual and potential, meaning it has the capacity to become something else, but is not yet that thing, and then it at the same time it's also already that thing or state, which would just be a contradiction.
Yeah, wait, hold on. What I guess what type of God are you arguing is gonna be real
This
or
is just
exist?
like specifically this argument's for a conscious, like fully actualized first mover existing by necessity.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so like going back to why something can't move itself, do you see like why something can't move
Oh
itself?
yeah, where were those definitions from, man?
Say that again.
Yeah, where were those definitions from?
Or like these definitions were like derived from Aristotle and Aquinas.
Can you repeat that real quick? I didn't hear you.
They're derived from Aristotle and Aquinas.
Yeah, what is that?
Those are philosophers.
Interesting. Yeah, why should we be using these definitions?
Yeah. So I would have we would affirm that like it if you are to affirm a specifically um like a contrary understanding of how motion works, it would be like incompatible. It would either end up like being a violation of PSR, which is the principle of sufficient reasoning, which states that like everything has a reasoning, like justification as to why it exists in its specific way and why it exists rather than not, right? If you were to say like disagree, for example, with potency being or potential, meaning like something has the capacity to become something else but is not yet that thing, then if something were to change, it would end up being what we call a brute fact, because potency is specifically just saying that, like, let's say a cup of water, right? We have a cup of water that's cold, and it changes to be hot. If you're saying that potency does not exist, and potency is like the capacity for the water to like be hot, that would be a potential. The cold cup of water, the potential would be the capacity or ability for it to become hot. If you're denying that understanding of potential, or that potential exists, then if the cup of water changes to be hot, there's a contradiction there, because you're saying it doesn't have the capacity or ability to become hot, but at the same time it did have the capacity or ability to become hot, because it did. It changed to be hot. But also it would be a brute fact, because if you're saying that it doesn't have the capacity or ability to become hot, but but then it does become hot, then it's coming hot for like becoming hot for no reason, or like without a reasoning or justification or grounding.
Oh wait, yeah. How's this? I guess proving the validity of your definitions.
Yeah, it shows so far that potential, or when it comes to change, like potentiality or potency would have to exist. So I mean, like that's a justification as to why potency has to exist. And for actuality, actuality being like the realized state of potential, if you're disagreeing with that understanding of actuality, and let's say like here we already established potential, so the potency here for the cold cup of water would be to become hot. If you're saying that actuality doesn't exist, meaning actuality being the realized state of that potential, in this scenario that would be the cup being hot, then you are essentially saying that the cup cannot be hot. Which then would be a contradiction, because if the cup does become hot, does change to be hot, you're saying that it is hot, i.e. like the actuality, that state of potential is realized, and also at the same time, same respect, you're affirming that this realized
Wait,
state
are
of
you like
potential didn't
affirming
occur.
that contradictions can't exist?
What?
Are you affirming that contradictions can't exist?
Yeah, I would affirm that.
Yeah, great. You can go ahead and I guess provide some
Justify
reasoning behind.
that. Yeah. You said you wanted a justification for why contradictions can exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you were to I would affirm that the law of non-contradiction is what we call a self-evident truth. Meaning
Yeah. Why?
that for you to say it's false, or means that your statement you're making that that you believe it's false, it's true that you believe it's true. Like if
I don't inherently. Oh, hold on. I don't inherently believe it's gonna be false. I'm just trying to get some justification
I'm
behind
just
why
saying
you
it's a
believe that.
self-evident truth in the sense that if you are affirming that contradictions can exist, it's a true statement. It's true that you believe that contradictions can exist. And that statement right there requires you to use the law of non-contradiction, because if in order for your statement to make any sense, otherwise your statement that you believe it's true that contradictions can exist is also simultaneously a statement that you believe it's false that contradictions can exist, which makes your statement completely irrational. So for your statement to have any meaning, for it to actually mean that you believe it's true that contradictions can exist, it requires the law of non-contradiction to be true.
That
It's
doesn't
what we
really
call like a
that doesn't really
self-evident truth or a
prove that
performative
that doesn't
knowledge.
really hold on, that doesn't really I guess prove that contradictions can't exist, man. I mean, you're
Well,
saying
it
that what
shows
you
that
need to abide by
the
this.
law of non-contradiction is self-evident truth, which would show that.
You're saying it's a self-evident truth. You're giving one example of this being the case
Well,
that it has
you
to
could, like in any scenario,
hold up.
like
Why does it have to hold up? I guess for all cases, man.
well, so if you were to affirm, like obviously, if you were to, I've showed you how it's a self-evident truth. The only other scenario here is outside of then affirming that the law of non-contradiction is true, is then just saying that statements can be irrational, and there can just be irrational things. That would really be the only other response in within this scenario. Which then, if you are just affirming that irrational things it can exist, then it just leads into what we call an epistemic collapse, which means that like no statements, including that person's statement that they believe the law of non-contradiction is false, can be trusted as coherent, true, and which then means that all logical discourse and meaning behind anything observed, you
Hold
would
on,
say,
hold on,
or
hold on.
thought,
I might.
becomes
Okay, hold
irrational
on.
and
Just,
unintelligible.
just wait. Just repeat the justification behind contradictions not being able to
Yeah, so the
exist.
law of non-contradiction is a self-evident truth, meaning that if in order to deny it, it presupposes it being true or requires it to be true. So, for example, if you're making the statement that the law of non-contradiction is false, it is a true statement that you believe the law of non-contradiction is false. Which, in order for that to actually have weight, it requires the law of non-contradiction to true because there's a distinction or a difference between true or false. If you were to say that it's actually false, then that statement that you believe it's true that it is that the law of non-contradiction is false is also simultaneously a statement where you are denying and affirming that the law of non-contradiction is true.
Yeah, I still don't see how this proves that contradictions can't exist.
It shows that in order for your statement to make any sense or to hold any rational weight, it requires it to be true. Otherwise, your statement becomes completely irrational, which then, if you're affirming that that it's true that things can be irrational and meaningless, then it leads into an epistemic collapse, which even that means like any statement you make cannot be trusted as being coherent or true. Any logical discourse about anything said or you think about or you observe is completely irrational and meaningless. It just becomes an epistemic collapse.
Okay, so you're basically just, I guess, affirming that if you don't, I guess, abide by the law of non-contradiction, then your statements are just going to be irrational.
Yeah. If you deny the law of non-contradiction, for your statement to even be for you to even deny it, it requires it to be true because there's a difference between denying and affirming. So like it's a self-evident truth in the sense that you're using it in your statement in which you're saying it's not true. But B, if you then just accept that and affirm that your statement actually is then irrational and meaningless, then it just leads into an epistemic collapse.
Okay, yeah. The problem with that is, I mean, yeah. Again, that's not really justifying why contradictions can't exist in totality. I mean, yeah, you're saying that these statements won't hold any rationality. Deny the law of non-contradiction. That doesn't really, I guess, prove that contradictions, I guess, can't exist at all.
Yeah, it would because it's a self-evident truth in every scenario in which you would be denying.
Yeah, you keep saying it's a self-evident
No,
truth. It's quite
because it's a
obviously
self-evident
not.
truth, this would show that contradictions can't exist in totality in order for things
Okay,
to be
yeah,
rational.
yeah. It's
Because
quite
any
okay. Hold on.
scenario
It's
in
quite
which you
obviously
say,
not
for example,
self-evident if I'm questioning it.
Cage, any scenario in which you say that there could be that contradictions can exist would require the law of non-contradiction to be true in order for you to make that statement and for that statement to actually have meaning.
Yeah. Once again, you keep bringing up what this self-evident truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's like I don't believe. I mean, self-evidency. I mean, it's quite obviously not going to be self-evident if I'm questioning it. So far.
Yeah. No, so even outside of the specific scenario, let's just say like you say X is a contradiction. To be able to say X is a contradiction and for that to have rational meaning, obviously a contradiction like would in this scenario mean like X, let's say it's a square, like X is a square and not a square, right? There would be for that to be a P and not P, there would be a distinction between what X is and what X isn't, in order for you to even say that X is a contradiction. So in order for, like, let's just say you say this specific scenario that this is a contradiction, this contradiction can exist, it requires that law of non-contradiction to be true, in the sense that there can't be contradictions in order for there to even be a contradiction. I.e., let's take the scenario where you're saying X is a square and not a square. It requires the L and C to be true, because in order for that you to say that that's a contradiction, because there would have to be a distinction between a square and not a square. I.e., what P is and what not P is.
Yeah, okay, you're saying that, okay, yeah, okay. You're saying that for there to be a contradiction, or the law of non-contradiction has to be true. That's presupposing it is true.
The grounding for that is because it's a self-evident truth, because it's denials and affirmation.
Yeah, okay, now you can go ahead and give justification on why self-evidency can exist, man.
Can exist?
Yeah.
A justification why self-evidency can exist?
Did you not hear me? Do I need to repeat
that's
myself?
just a weird question. I mean, like, this would be an example of self-evidence existing, in the sense that
Yeah,
in order to say,
that's quite literally just begging the question, by the way.
no. So, for example, if you're asking me to show that self-evidence can exist, and I say, in order for your statement that you do not believe the law of non-contradiction is true to be a true statement, it requires the law of non-contradiction to be true, in the sense that there's a distinction between true and false. If so, that would be an example of self-evidency existing. A self-evident truth is one that would be, for example, immediately known to be true and requires no further proof.
Okay, yes. Okay,
i.e.,
stop.
It can't be
Once
denied
again,
without a contradiction.
okay, once again, we can believe that this law of logic is true, I guess. That doesn't necessarily mean that it is going to be true. So can I get some justification on why it would be true? You're presupposing that it has to be true for this to be the case, and it's self-evident that it's going to be true, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be true. It can just be what we believe to be true. That doesn't necessarily mean that it is going to be true. I can believe the sky's red. Does that necessarily mean the sky is going to be red? No. So can you give some justification on why this law of logic would be true?
Because it's self-evident, and then you ask me to
Wow.
justify that self-evidence
Wow.
exists. For something to be self-evident means
Wow.
it's immediately known. Like, it's require an aspect of being self-evident means it requires no further proof. For example, a whole is greater than its parts, or any of its parts. And with that being said, like, I provided an example of self-evidence
wow.
existing, in the sense for your statement to be a true statement. That
Okay,
you do
stop.
not believe in law of
Did you not
non-contradiction.
hear what I said? Did you not hear what I said, man?
But
Okay, so once again, so yes, we can hold this to be valid. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be true. We can believe that this is going to be the case. Like, I can believe the sky is going to be red. Does that mean that the sky is red? No. So I'm going to need some justification on why it would actually be true. You're saying it's self-evident. Well, yeah, it can be self-evident that we believe this thing to be true. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be true.
Yeah, okay. So what a self-evident truth is, in order for, like, you to justify something, you are proving it by something, like, more fundamental, right? You can't justify the self-evidence by proving it with something more fundamental, because by definition it's the foundation. It's the most fundamental thing. And there's different types of circular reasoning. There's like, for example, like, the bad type of circular reasoning is vicious circular reasoning, right? This isn't an example of that. within the scenario I'm giving. Like, this is still valid logically for me to say that L and C is true because it's a self-evident truth, and then to say self-evidence exists because L and C is like an example of it. It's just transcendental grounding. I'm
No, that's
identifying the law of
literally
non-contradiction
that's a
as
clear
a
logical
paradigm
flaw.
case
There.
of
That's a
self-evidence.
clear hold on, that's a clear logical flaw there. That is just that's just logically flawed.
How is it
It's
logical? What's the
fallacious.
logical flaw here?
Yeah, sure. You're saying that self-evidency is going to be I guess self-evidency can exist because this thing is going to be true and it's going to be self-evident. That's presupposing that it is going to be self-evident because it can't be self-evident if it doesn't truly exist.
So, what's the logical error there?
Yeah, I just told you. You're begging the question.
You didn't give me the answer. Like, you didn't tell me what the logical error was. You just repeated what I said.
Yes, to demonstrate how you're begging the question.
Okay, so what's begging the question? Tell me what begging the question is. Do you know what it is?
I just told you. I literally just told you.
So, begging the question would be when a conclusion is assumed implicitly in one of the premises. For example, murder is morally wrong because killing people is immoral. How is what I'm doing, like, where in what I said is the conclusion assumed in implicitly in one of my premises?
Yeah, why do I have an obligation to answer that question, especially when I just gave you the reasoning why you would be begging the question?
No. How am I assuming the conclusion in my premises?
Yeah, I've already told you this. Once again, why do I have an obligation to answer that?
Because you're making the claim that I'm begging the question.
Once again, I've already told you why you would be. Why do I have an obligation to answer that?
Can you answer it again?
Can I answer it again?
Can you
Why?
show me again? So that I can see, like, how I'm how I'm begging the question?
You think I have an obligation to
Well, if you're
fix your
yes, you
tracking
do,
errors?
because if you're
You
making
can-
the
you
claim
go
that
ahead
I'm
and
begging the
justify that.
question, and if begging the question means this, and I'm asking you how I'm doing this, i.e., how I'm assuming the conclusion
Yeah, I already told you how you're
implicitly
going
within
to
my
do this.
premises,
So yeah, you're
you
oh,
are that's an expectation is for you to answer that.
yeah. I've already told you this, man. Now you can go ahead and provide some justification on why
What
I
was
would
the
have
answer?
an obligation to repeat myself.
What was the answer?
Yeah, once again, why do I need to repeat myself?
Because I didn't hear it. Like, the point of an aspect of why you would need to repeat yourself is because since I did not hear it, if you refuse to repeat it because you supposedly already said it, then you're just being an obscurantist in the sense that you are preventing the conversation from moving forward by intentionally either like not being clear or not allowing me to hear your point out.
I was
because
very
missed
clear.
it.
Why
Okay,
why
I
aren't you
didn't
just
hear
lying
your
about not
point.
being able to hear
I
it?
didn't hear your
Yeah, why aren't you lying?
explanation as to how
Yeah,
I
why aren't you
committed the
lying?
begging the question fallacy. So
Yeah,
I'm
why
asking
aren't
you
you
to
lying?
repeat it.
Why didn't you hear it?
Why didn't I don't know. But I'm asking you just to repeat it one
You
more
don't- you
time
don't
so I
know.
can hear the how I
You don't know
begging
why
the
you're
question.
you don't know why you're not lying?
That just presupposes that I'm lying that I didn't hear it. It's a loaded question.
It's not presupposing that you're not gonna
That's
be
what we
lying.
call a loaded
it's
question.
just putting
You
into
said
question
you
why
don't-
can't this be
you
the
said,
case that
"I
you
don't
are
know-
lying?
you
You haven't
don't
given any
know how I'm
justification on why
lying."
you wouldn't
That's
be
the
lying.
statement you
Therefore,
made.
it's equally
That's a
probable
loaded
that you were
question
just
because
lying
it
here.
presupposes that I'm lying.
What?
And if you make the statement, you don't know how you're lying, that's a loaded question because firstly, it presupposes that I am lying. I didn't make the claim that I'm lying. I made the claim that I did not hear your justification for how I'm committing the
Okay,
begging the
idiot.
question
I
fallacy.
said, why aren't you lying? I'm putting into question why can't this be the case that you're just lying and you actually did hear it, then you said, I don't know. If you're not giving any justification on why you can't be lying, then it's just going to be equal probability that you can be lying.
This is literally. Do you know what obscurantism is? Cage? An obscurantist is someone who deliberately makes information either unclear, confusing, or inaccessible.
Why is this relevant at all?
It's relevant because that's what you're doing.
Because that's what I'm doing? Yeah, I'm very clearly not.
You are refusing to tell me
I'm not
show me how
refusing. If you can't give any,
wait,
if you
I'm
can't give any
assuming the
justification on
conclusion
why I would have to
implicitly in my
repeat
premises.
myself, then I really don't see why I would need to repeat myself. If you're not competent enough to give any justification or reasoning why I would have to repeat myself, then I'm just simply not going to do it. There's also just the chance that you're going to be lying here, which I've already put into question. Why can't you just be lying and you actually did hear me? You failed to provide any reason on why you wouldn't be lying, so it can just be equally probable that you are lying.
Okay. If you want to go down the route of like, if I'm saying I couldn't hear, and I'm saying like, and you're making the claim that I can't justify why I can't hear, so therefore you don't have to tell me. That's just what you're saying?
No, you're saying that you couldn't hear, and that's the reason why I should have to repeat myself. First of all, that's not reasoning on why I need to repeat myself. Just because you have a
Because
tracking
I
problem,
didn't hear.
I don't see
yes,
how that's an
actually
obligation
is a
for me to
valid
repeat myself.
reason.
That's not
That's
really
a valid
giving any
reason
reason
for why
why I
you should
should
repeat
have
yourself.
to.
Because the point of a logical conversation is for there to be a flow in the discussion, a continued progression, etc. An aspect of this is fallacies existing in order for a conversation to be logically valid and to occur and progress, right? If I didn't hear what you said, we can't progress with the conversation because I don't know what you said.
Yeah,
So
that's
you
not, yeah,
then
that's fine for
refusing
me.
to just tell me what you said one more time prevents the flow of the conversation and the debate.
Okay, yeah, okay, stop. The problem with this is I'm not inherently refusing to do this. You're just not giving any justification on why I would have an obligation to do so. So I'm not really
I
preventing
provided a
this
justification.
conversation from continuing. You're just not competent enough to give any valid reasoning on why I would need to have an obligation to repeat myself.
I provided a reason as to why you would.
Yeah, you said you didn't hear. Why do I have an obligation to fix your
The
tracking
reason is because since I didn't hear, it prevents the logical flow and continuation of our discourse.
Okay,
because I don't
okay, once
know
again,
what your reason was on how I committed the begging the question.
Okay, once again, why do I have an obligation to fix your tracking issue?
Because if you don't do it, it prevents the logical flow.
Yeah,
and the
I don't have a
continuation
problem
of
with
the
that, man.
conversation.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that, man. You're gonna have to provide some better
Do
justification.
you don't have a problem with the fallacies then? If so, let's assume that I did commit a begging the question fallacy. Fallacies exist in order to prevent types of arguments, etc.
Stop.
that do not
that
flow
is
logically,
hold on.
that are not valid, right? It prevents the logical flow of an argument, right? If you're
Hold on,
saying
you're
that does
assuming
not
that
matter,
because I don't
that
care
it
about
doesn't
one of
matter if an
these-
argument logically follows or or anything like that.
Wow.
Right? Like if
That is not what I said at all.
denying that it matters whether the conversation can progress and logically flow, then the entire point of fallacies being bad
I said I do not
doesn't
care
matter.
for it to progress.
Okay, so then logically, if you don't care for it to progress, if you don't care for the logical flow of an argument, then let's assume I did commit a begging the question fallacy, that you wouldn't care about that either, because a begging the question fallacy is just fallacies are just
how is
prevent
it
the logical
fallacious to
flow and
the- okay,
continuation
hold on,
of a
how is it
conversation.
hold
If
on,
you do
how is
not
it-
care about the logical flow or of a continuation of a conversation, and that's what a fallacies do, they prevent that, then why do you care about the fallacy to begin with?
Oh, I can speak now? Yeah, great. Why? Once again, me not caring about the continuation of this conversation doesn't really, I guess, It doesn't really mean that I don't care for these other fallacies. These other fallacies, obviously, I'm going to care for them because it points out logical flaws inside your argument that just make your argument fall apart. I don't really care about the continuation of this conversation. That's not fallacious at all.
Alright, so at this point, if you just don't care about the continuation of the argument, then,
yes, I don't really
that's
care. You're
literally
failing
that's
to provide any
what an
justification on
obscurantist
why I would
is.
need to repeat myself.
That's
If you can't
what an
provide any
obscurantist is.
justification on why I have an obligation to do this said thing, then I
I
don't really
gave
care.
I gave
to
you a
continue this.
justification. My justification was because it prevents the flow of the conversation, the continuation of the conversation. You said
Yes,
I
I
don't care,
just
so then
told
at
you
that point,
I don't care.
A,
Yes, I
that
just
then
told you I don't care about the
that's an
continuation of
affirmation that you're
this.
an obscurantist. But B, then why are you still here? If you do not care about the conversation continuing or us progressing, then why are you here?
Yeah, why do I have an obligation to answer that question?
Continue to become an obscurantist, dude. If you guys disagree with the background or have any questions, request up as guest. Here, for the YouTube chat, I just want to show you. Look. I hope there's a good definition. Was he not doing this? He was. But an aspect of being obscurantist, if we just go with Oxford Languages, an obscurantist is a person who deliberately prevents the facts or full details of something from being known, which by preventing, since I did miss his justification, by refusing to repeat it so that I can hear, prevents the facts or full details of something from being known. That's what an obscurantist is. But B, an aspect of being an obscurantist is it prevents the flow of a conversation, specifically also the logical flow of a conversation, if you are deliberately preventing facts or full details from being known. Which, since he is affirming that he does not care about the flow of the conversation, the continuation of the conversation, that's just another affirmation that he's an obscurantist. P. Johnson, he said I committed the begging the question fallacy, and he claimed that he explained it to me and I didn't hear it, so I was just trying to ask him to say it again so I could hear it, and he refused to. If you guys disagree with the background or have any questions, request up as guest. The Trinity is contradictory. Do you want to come up and talk about that, Didi? Oh, Bryce stays live. Or Bryce stays on, not live. Jordan, I don't debate Catholics, but I do know someone that does debate Catholics. If you want to debate them, or if you're a Catholic and want to debate, so if you go here, I'll even show you. If you go to my YouTube homepage, hold up. And then you just go to links. Do you see this Discord link? Click on this link and join the Discord. And after stream, I have someone that will debate you. Or if you can't debate right after stream, they can schedule it. Who does debate Catholics? I personally don't debate Catholics. Okay. So now, since no one went back up on the TikTok, here's what I'm gonna do. Firstly, I'm gonna just for those who are in the Discord, today I will be posting the Daniel 7, Daniel 2 debunking, including these verses, just on the Discord for those who want it. I'll toss that in there. I'm going to try to find a TikTok live.
It's an example.
I'm just gonna turn the background noise off right now. Okay. Yeah. Jordan, just join up, and I'll give you his Discord. He'd love to debate you. In fact, here, here, I'll add this right now. Okay. Just right there. I will post this and address this. Let me see. For y'all. All right. Yeah, I'll get that done for y'all. Just for those who are interested. But yeah, they're talking. I have them muted. They're talking to someone right now, and I don't want to interrupt. So I'm listening. I think I'm gonna do this debate, and depending on how good it is, I'll either do one more and then reacts, or we might just hop straight into reacts if it's a good one. Out of curiosity, what do y'all want to do? Do y'all want to watch this street debate, or do you want to watch Jay Dyer debating Black Hebrew Israelites? Yeah. Just type in chat which one, which video you'd prefer for the react. We might be able to do both, honestly, but whatever one you want to start with. Okay, hold up. Yeah, they're talking about John 3:13 real quick. No one has ascended to heaven except he who descended from heaven, the Son of Man. Okay, Yeah, so, okay, so real quick, for those who do hear this argument, obviously, like, we understand that people like Elijah and Enoch within the scriptures ascended into heaven. For example, here. I'll show you some verses. For example, 2 Kings 2:11, and Elijah went up by the whirlwind of heaven. And you also have, for example, Genesis 5:24. Enoch walked with God, and he was not with God, but for God took him, and he went up to heaven, right? Many people will quote that John 3:13. Sorry, just making sure y'all are listening. Many people will quote John 3:13 when it says, "No one has ascended to heaven except he who descended from heaven, the Son of Man," to show a contradiction, right? Because obviously, biblically, right, it's saying that Elijah, for example, went into heaven, and here it's saying that no one's been into heaven, and ascended into heaven, and except he from descended from it, i.e., the Son of Man. If we look within the Greek here, I'll explain something. If we go to John 3:13 in the Greek, I want you to pay attention for specifically to the word for ascended. This Greek word here, this Greek word is what is within the it's the perfect tense, meaning like it's indicating a completed action, right? Like a full completed action, i.e., that being ascended. So when he's saying no one has gone up and is now in heaven, right? Like that's what the meaning is, right? No one has gone up and is now in heaven, in the sense like the full permanent like conscience and presence within heaven, like where God dwells. what the church fathers tell us is, like, for example, like, I don't have the quotes. I can get you the quotes and type on the Discord if you want. But, like, I think it's like Irenaeus and John Chrysostom. They tell us that Elijah and Enoch went into what we call a I don't know how to pronounce the word. It's paradisiacal realm. Which this paradisiacal realm, this isn't it. That's basically a realm in which like they're in, like, for example, like the Garden of Eden, or like an intermediary heavenly state, but they're not in the full beatific presence of God. And that's specifically because it was closed off until Christ's redemption, right? And this is actually kind of talked about within Hebrews, for example, in Hebrews 9. It specifically said 9 verse 8. It specifically says, "By this is the Holy Spirit indicates that the only way into the heavenly place is not yet open, as long as the first section is still standing," which is symbolic for the present ages. And then also that also I think Hebrews 11:5 talks about it. Enoch specifically. "By faith Enoch was taken up so that he should not see death, and he was not found because God had taken him. Now before he was taken, he was commended as having pleased God." And then Hebrews 11:39 says, "And all these, though commended through their faith, did not receive what was promised, and God had provided something better for us, that apart from us they should not be made perfect." Some people argue that this is in reference to, like, the promise, like Enoch has not yet received this promise, but I think the Hebrews 9:8 verse is better, and showing that, like, this heavenly realm, like the actual, like, peak of heaven, or being in, like, the full beautiful presence of God, had not been yet achieved, or is not yet open up. If that makes sense to y'all. I could write that down if y'all want on the server, but that's the explanation I give. You could also understand this in a second way. Like, I know some people will argue, for example, that there's the heaven where, like, there's kind of like levels to heaven. I know, like, some people say, and they will say, like, for example, where is it? Like, they will say, like, for example, like, the heavens are the Lord's heaven, but the earth he has given to the children of man. And they will, like, oh, that's not the right verse, but they will argue that, like, the highest heaven is God's throne, and that only Christ came from that. But specifically, this John 3:13 is in reference to, like, for example, Enoch and Elijah didn't go into, like, the fullness of heaven, or where, like, the full glory of God's presence is. Mm-hmm. And that's what the church fathers teach. I hope that was pretty clear. You understand that? Yeah, Jack. Yeah, denying the law of non-contradiction is kind of cooked. Oh, let me explain something. So on that debate, right? When I'm okay. So when I'm talking about like, the reason I'm not committing circular reasoning when I say that the law of non-contradiction is a self-evident truth, and they ask me, oh, well, can you justify that self-evident truths exist? And I use the law of non-contradiction as an example. There's different types of circular reasoning. There's vicious circular reasoning, which is bad. For example, the Bible's true because it says it's true. And then there's virtuous circular reasoning, i.e., where in certain contexts, certain degrees of circularity are unavoidable. For example, like logic, reason, etc. What we were arguing there would be more transcendentals. It would be virtuous. So I'm not providing the foundation from outside itself, because it would be impossible in these scenarios. But I'm showing that it is necessary for intelligibility or justification of anything else. So this is like, for example, if you read Kant, Aristotle, Aquinas, etc., that's what we call like transcendental grounding or foundational reasoning. I hope that made sense. Yeah, there's just different types of circular reasoning. But that's the good type. And that's not something that's like just specific for our side. That's every side. Like if for example, like if we're talking about logic, right? No matter what worldview you have, if you are trying to justify, even if you're trying to justify whether logic is true or false or whatever. If you're trying to justify whether, like, for example, whether logic's true from any worldview, you are using logic in your justification, right? It's circular, but it's virtuous circularity. It's not the bad kind of circularity. Because, like, so the fallacious kind of circularity, getting more into vicious circularity, is when, like, the conclusion is assuming the premises, where like then that makes the reasoning useless or epistemically invalid or not informative, etc. There's no independent logical justification. When it comes to virtuous circularity, it's literally impossible to prove the foundation from outside itself. But I'm showing specifically that it is necessary for intelligibility, or I'm showing that it is necessary for the justification of something else. So when I'm talking about this, the LNC and self-evident truths, it's virtuous circularity. If you don't know, a self-evident truth is just something that is immediately known to be true / apparent. And also, it doesn't need further proof or justification. Also, it cannot be something that cannot be denied without presupposing it. There is another justification you could go with self-evident truth, which is like if they ask you, how do we know they exist? You could say, because like, if they didn't, no justification for anything would be possible. But that's like another answering line to this. And specifically, the reason why if they didn't exist, there would be no justification for anything else is because if there's no self-evident truths, in the sense of like truths that do not require proof from something prior, right? Then the justification for anything would require another justification, and so on until infinity. So if self-evident truths did not exist, right, there would be no justification would be possible, because it would just be an infinite regress with no actual justification. So justification would just be impossible. Because since there is no base or grounding, it just goes back infinitely. No truth is ever actually justified. Right. Now, that doesn't mean that there's arbitrary stopping points. Like the stopping point is self-evident. I'll add this to the document, by the way. I'll add this to this document for y'all. This is taking forever. Sorry it's taking so long. This is like kind of annoying. Yeah, I'll actually work on that right now. Work on adding that. Here. Okay. Self-evident truths must exist because if they didn't, justification, it would be impossible to justify anything. To justify something, you give a reason. You give a reason, right? I like that. Without self-evident truths, this justification would need another justification, and this would go on infinitely without infinitely. Since there is no end, nothing is justified at all. So nothing could be rationally justified. So self-evident truths must exist. These truths, I mean, we could get into, like, for example, like, I don't know if I should get into, like, these truths, like, are self-evident because denying them requires assuming them. For example, with, like, the law of non-contradiction being self-evident, you can't argue against it without using it. Ultimately, a self-evident truth is just a description of something, right? Like, for example, like, it's like a self-evident truth is just a reflection of, or a description of how the law of non-contradiction is justified, or like why you can't deny it, because its denial is an affirmation, right? That's just what a self-evident truth is. So, like, you could say they're real in the sense that the law of non-contradiction, or that they exist in the sense that the law of non-contradiction exists as a self-evident truth. like I did, and you can just explain that how the law of non-contradiction is a self-evident truth, which I did. I showed how it's a self-evident truth. If self-evident truth is defined as X, and this is an example of X, then that's an answer as to how self-evident truths exist. I'll also, yeah. You know what? Screw this. I don't feel like waiting any longer. Yeah. Hold up. How do I turn that on? Okay. Let's just watch. Let's just do a react. I'm not gonna put you through that. Let's do this JDire edit or video. Okay. This is not a good video. I'm not putting y'all through this. Oh, here. We're gonna watch this one. This one's better. Yeah, okay, so I mean, okay, just. Oh my gosh, I had it on mute. I'm so sorry. Okay, so essentially what he's saying is that the devil was tormenting Christ and defeated Christ in Matthew chapter 4. This obviously just isn't the case. If we go to Matthew chapter 4, if we read, obviously he fasted for the 40 days and 40 nights, and then the devil was attempting to tempt him, and Jesus, obviously it did not work. He tries again, and then Jesus says, "Begone, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and only shall you serve." And the devil left, right? So very clearly here, nowhere did Satan ever defeat him. Nowhere did Satan ever torment him. Like this did not occur within this passage, so he's just lying.
You said that after physical torment, yes or no?
No, I said physical starvation.
Oh, is he running already? Is he running already? Torment. Now you add salvation.
No.
Now let me
We
say.
are talking about Jesus willingly fasting
we do
for 40
something?
days. The devil did not harm him.
Can we
that
do
was
something?
your claim. It's not in Matthew.
Okay,
and I asked you to show me a verse.
And
You
I
didn't
showed you
because it's not
4:11.
there. Where? No, read it. Read it.
Okay.
Read it.
Get
Read
that.
it. Read it. Read it.
Okay.
Read it.
I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, he doesn't have it in front of him.
Read
But
it.
you know what
Don't
it is.
read it. 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 You think this establishes your truth?
I think it's really cool. Yeah.
No, you think it establishes your truth? Not allowing it to
Matthew
be said? Now listen to
4:11.
me.
Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came and were ministering to him. Why does it say the
Ministering.
devil
How do
beat him?
angels minister to God? Why and how?
Because again, he was fasting for 40 days.
Oh,
and
so
man
God was
does
fasting
not
and
live
got weak.
on bread alone.
So they missed the whole part about the incarnation. He missed that part. They always miss that part. They always miss that part.
No, you're lying.
Where does it
You're
say?
How is the angels
it say the
going
devil-
to administer to God?
Where does it say the
Where
devil-
does God in the Old
Where does
Testament
it say
say
the devil-
that his angels are responsible for his welfare and well-being? Give me the verse. And where does he say he'll take that form?
Say the devil
David, let's
beat
talk.
his.
This dude right
Where
here.
does it say the devil tormented him?
This dude right here is
I just want you
insane
to point
anyway,
to the verse
brother.
where it says the
I'm
devil
not-
tormented him and beat
I've
him.
been watching you. Your sanity is doubtful. So let me talk to you
Okay,
about
so that's Sadiq's 0-1. He's 0-1
I'm
from today.
here in front of you.
Show me the verse
now?
where the devil
Listen,
beat him.
Everybody,
You want to start now?
You don't want to do
All right, so look, everybody. We need some space here. all right?
Can I talk to you
So
for a second?
everybody create your room.
Just, God loves it.
Just 1 second, my brother. I'm trying to set this up. So guys,
let's try to get
we
something.
need the space so that our debaters can debate with room and you guys can see things and the camera can catch everything, okay? So, you guys are good. Can you guys all hear me? Let me hear you say Jesus is God if you can hear me. All right, cool. All right, that's good. Now, so we're all good here. Yeah, we're good. Well. Radar Apologetics in the building, yo! Look up. Yeah. So this is the IRL.
My energy
So
is
the
directed
live stream
at
here's this mic.
What's up, live stream?
There you go.
that I hear by myself, no, it's not against you.
Yeah, we're good. So,
Okay, so now,
all right.
let
So,
me,
what do you want? Hey, what up, Flo? What up, Secretary?
okay, so now,
All right. So, did he get the verse?
me and, yeah, we made that now.
You guys are done now?
We're gonna do, y'all not just please, listen, what we're gonna do now,
We have top
my people, what we're gonna do now is talk about what is most important.
Yeah, the Islamic dilemma.
Yep.
We're
We're going to talk about whether Muhammad is a true prophet, and Sadiq is going to prove it for us because he's been doing this for years. So if anyone can show us that Muhammad is
That's the
a
first
true
thing.
prophet
That's-
and not a
the
child
Islamic
molesting,
dilemma is first.
murdering rapist of a false prophet, he can do
I'm
it.
listening. I'm listening.
How, you see, listen, I want you to look around you. I'm the only Muslim here.
That's right. Hey, give it up for him, y'all. He's the only Muslim.
Very brave.
Now
Very
listen,
brave.
I'm this rice and bean eating Muslim that keeps it real.
That's right.
You heard? Ya arrolla bichuela y pollo guisado plato y ya lo que tú sabes. Para que tú sepas. Okay, so I'm here in defense and doing the best I can in odds that won't allow me in reality to express myself. So therefore, let's do this. The crux of the matter is this, and one only. Christianity is based.
Oh, hey, he said Christianity is based.
That's right. Hey, make sure you clip that.
Thank you.
Can't say nothing else.
Thank you.
Live converted, live new top Dawa leader gets converts to Christianity.
You see, this is what I mean. What is this intended to do? This is intended to divert with the points that I want to bring up and what I want to talk about, because that is why Christianity focuses completely and totally on polemics against Islam, to keep the pressure off the Bible, to keep pressure off Christianity, because Christianity cannot be defended.
Notice this though. Just I want to respond to that because he said that Christianity focuses on polemics, meaning arguments against Islam. But last time I checked, does the Bible mention Islam at all, y'all? And do you know the Quran talks about us more than it talks about Muhammad? That's crazy, isn't it? Okay. So it looks like Islam is actually a polemic against us, man. We ain't even thinking about y'all.
Yeah, you talked about us first. Your God and your prophet talked about us way before we ever heard of your God and your prophet. So don't whine when we respond. Your book calls us the worst of creatures. Do we get to respond? Your book says that our religion is false. Do we get to respond? They want this world where they get to blast.
Honestly, I just want to say, within this scenario, I think this is just blatantly unfair for the guy. Just because, obviously, they're kind of like unintentionally filibustering in the sense that, like, after he speaks, like 8 different other people take turns speaking, right? Like, you have God Logic speaking, you have David Wood speaking, you have Inspiring Philosophy all speaking, all taking turns before this guy can even respond, right? That's just, honestly, it's a little unfair, right? Like, it, with the dynamic and with how, like, how the communication's occurring, and his chance to speak.
Us, call for violence against us, even kill us, and we just have to sit here like good dimmies and take it all. Too bad, Sadiq. We are not, have never been, and never will be your dimmies.
Boom, boom. First of all, if you want to talk about dhimmis, the action of dhimmis actually occurred in the Bible and begins in the Bible, and what you call tributaries in the Bible. Where in fact in the book of Deuteronomy, it talks about tributaries.
Not one defense of Islam, ever.
In the book of Deuteronomy, where you are to fight people that are far off, not a threat from you, not a threat, and subject them. If they do not subject and allow themselves to be tributaries, siphoning everything that they have toward you, then they are to be put to the sword, summarily and killed. This is called tributaries.
Hey, one second. And if Sadiq thinks that's a problem, yes. One second. No, I'll be quick. If Sadiq thinks that the book of Deuteronomy is immoral and wicked, why did his God and his prophet affirm it as the inspired, preserved, authoritative word of God that we are supposed to judge by? You just condemned your own fake prophet, Sadiq.
So Sadiq,
I condemn my fake prophet.
Yeah, you did.
Did it with your mouth when you won't allow me to speak and defend it. Now that's a whole complete.
I'm just pointing out. I'm assuming you want to be a good Muslim. If you want to be a good Muslim, you shouldn't be attacking your God and your prophet.
Okay, listen to me.
I'll do that for you.
Can I do that? Listen, you got squashed by Daniel Hakikatu.
Oh no, it's Hakikatu! Daniel Hakikatu!
Can I finish?
Daniel Hakikatu!
you got the mic.
Can I finish a point? The second you said that the Bible does not confirm the Bible, you killed the entire purpose of the Islamic dilemma.
What?
Now let me go. Now please can I please, soft, please.
All right.
Now,
So
let me just.
Sadiq, look.
I'm gonna go.
Yeah,
let me
listen,
make a.
we're gonna. I thought you just did.
No, let me just unite us in one subject.
Go ahead.
Now the subject I want to unite us in.
Jesus is Lord.
Ignore him. He's just a troll.
Yeah, you see, what you have to know about David Wood is that his life, his freedom, depends on Islam. Because you see, if it wasn't for let me finish. If it wasn't for Islam, David Wood would succumb to his psychosis.
Wow.
Now, let me finish.
Hey, that's true.
Can everyone imagine what would have happened if I had converted to Islam in prison? There would be massive piles of dead bodies all over the place.
Baby ducks, chickens, and kittens. Chickens and kittens. You'd have been killing them. Now let's talk about that. Now let's please. Now,
He's right, but it's not because of Islam. It's thanks to the Lord Jesus
Look,
Christ.
you got the mic. You got it.
See, that's called playing to the crowd, which is 99%.
You playing to the
Oh, Muslims wouldn't play
How
to
can I
the
play
crowd.
to the crowd?
No, they would never do that.
No, but you did, man. You got us hyped.
Now listen, the most important thing,
Yeah.
the most important thing to Christianity, call it however you want to call it, Christianity is this offer of salvation. Am I right or wrong that Christianity rests its existence on the death and resurrection of Jesus, yes or no?
Yes.
That's true.
Okay, now I have a question. The Apostle Paul, in the book of, the Apostle Paul, by the way, take a look at that. You see light? Look at my face.
Yep.
This is called Nur. You're a white boy, I'm Puerto Rican. The light, that's called Nur. But anyway, so
You know who else was really white?
yes, and Muhammad had a son.
I'm not gonna lie. With this scenario, like debating or like having any good debate or any progress is just like completely pointless. Like you could see here, we're 12 minutes in, and like there's not really been any discussion or flow of like a debate. Honestly, it's kind of pointless. Yeah, I'm not even gonna react to this. I'm gonna end the stream here, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I'll be live tomorrow. Hopefully we'll actually get some better debates on tomorrow. But yeah, appreciate for all y'all for tuning in and watching and liking the live. And yeah, appreciate y'all. God bless. Make sure you're going to church. Make sure you're doing your prayers and